Good morrow, my friends. Welcome. My name is Blubobobobo. And today, I want to tell you the story about the Vulture Brothers. A long time ago, longer now than it seems, the sun was way too close to the earth. Much closer than it is now. And today is hot. But it was so close that no trees could grow. Barely any plants could grow. They were burned away before they grew very tall. All water began to steam off the ground, and the poor animals were in dire straits. Eventually, the Council of Birds decided that they needed to send someone to the sun to try and push it away. And so they went around asking all the birds if they would go. And they asked the hawk and falcon, blue jay and eagle. They all said no. And finally, two brothers stepped up, turkey vulture and black vulture. Now, these two brothers were beautiful birds. Their feathers were dark purple and reds. They were long, they had long flowing tails, almost as long as a peacock's. But they were willing to fly to the sun to help the others. So the next morning, before the sun rose, both brothers took off into the sky and began flying higher and higher, beating their wings harder and harder. Soon enough, they were above the clouds in the sky, and finally, they pierced the blue. Once on the other side of the blue, they came face to face with the sun. And the closer they got, the harder they beat their wings, and their wings began to smolder and smoke. Embers began trailing off of their wings, off their faces, but they continued flying higher and higher, forcing harder and harder. They knew that they had a job to do to help everyone else, and they weren't going to give up. Eventually, they got to the sun, and one big push, both of their heads against the sun, and they flapped, and the sun began to move further away. Flap, further and further away it went, flap, until finally the sun was moving far enough away that things could grow again. The brothers, exhausted and burnt, turned and began spiraling back down to earth, just like they do now, as they spiral in the air, flying all the way down, until finally they came to a pond, and they splashed down, and their feathers sizzled and steamed. When they arose, Black Vulture stood up. His head was black as soot. All the feathers had been burned away. His feathers were now dark and black. Underside was gold, was silver and ash. Turkey Vulture, when he got up, his face was red and scarred. All the feathers burned down past his neck, and all of his long feathers on his wings and his tail were burnt short into a crisp. But after that day, both brothers were heralded by the rest of the animals, especially the birds, because they knew what those birds sacrificed. And even though they appeared on the outside to be ugly and burnt, everyone knew how honorable and how they sacrificed for the others. And from that day forth, the vultures were honored among the birds and all the animals of the forest, because they are the ones that pushed the sun away. Have a wonderful day, my friends.